This is day 1702 of Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. Today we're doing Choshev Mishpat, Siman Reis, Samach Ches, Sif, Gimel to Yud Beis. Gimel, Shtayim Shabo Ke'echol, Toch Arba Amos of Metzia, two people came simultaneously within 4 Amos of Metzia, or Sheshnayim Omdi, the two people are standing, Menafla, and Metzia Toch Arba Masem, the Metzia fell within their 4 Amos. Kodesh, obviously that's simultaneous as well, could more likely be simultaneous. Kodesh, they both acquired it. Even though it's closer to one to the other. Koko nevertheless came to Gam Shady with Toch Arba. Most of since to the second one, it's also within this 4 Amos. Kodesh name Shabbat, the jurisdiction they have over it is equal among both of them. One of them came first. That's it. Nobody else can be Zayach in the 4 Amos of the first guy. This is also true by a sale and a gift. If the person bestowing the gift or bestowing the sale, selling, is standing there for a shuv, the kohen cannot acquire it in that 4 amos of the makna. The low tik shalach. You can't ask. Oh, he asked the question. How can it be that they both came precisely simultaneously in 4 amos? Then we hold you can't be precisely coordinated by something which happens on its own without deliberate intent. The Ishmael Levadi Kenu. Say that's certainly the case. But still, you can't tell who came first. So therefore, automatically, it's under the jurisdiction of both of them, and therefore they are divided. So if one of them seized it, he says he came first, and the second one cannot take it away from his hand. They just make him take a lighter shvua, shekenu, that this is in fact the case. That's he says in brackets that they make him take a shvuas hesed. I guess is his chiddush. Any person, his 4 amos is acquired for him, even the Metzia goes into 4 amos after he got there. As the Simon Lamed, it's clear by Ibn Ezer. Reuven Amad Charek Ba Shimon. Reuven is standing, then Shimon came, but Charek Ba Levi, and Levi came. Reuven left. Konagam Levi Harba Amos. And Levi also acquires 4 amos. Af Shimon Ba Kaidim, even though Shimon came first, because evidently. I'm not sure why. Not sure why. That's interesting. Halacha. Reuven was standing there, and then Shimon came, and then afterwards Levi, and Reuven left. So Levi also acquires the dot Amos. I guess that's a very interesting thing. Because they're both standing there simultaneously. Shimon, obviously Shimon lost it. But when, for Reuven and Levi, since they're both saying at the same time the Metzia comes, so they both acquire the Amos and they acquire the Metzia B'Shutfus. Okay, that requires more analysis. When the Shem writes that you only acquire it with 4 Amos if you're standing, not if you're walking. The Torah writes Sharosh. This is something from the Taisus Harosh, it says here. The Chalik was there, argues, and really the Eichel holds no distinction. They didn't write this opinion that's only if you're standing. Nearly low pleading, I don't think they're arguing in terms of the Vadai im Abar, Arba Amos of Shemitzia. Certainly, if you passed through the 4 amos of the Metzia below Amar Sham, he didn't stand there. And then somebody else came afterwards. So Amar Sham, he stood there. The Kohen El Sheni below Rishon, the second guy acquires not the first guy. The Chatzah Sheni Mishta Merisi. There's a chutzah. The definition of 4 amos is a chutzah which is not safeguarded. You only acquire if you're standing next to it. As he said, obviously they're just passing by. Low nikra is not called staying next to it. That's what it says. So even though you're walking, you are kind of. Even though the Metzia. He didn't stand there before the Metzia came to this 4 amos. So the Metzia cut Masa. The Metzia came first. And he walked and stood there. The Kohen Bezeh. He acquired it that way. Since the person, even though a person preceded him before he came to a halt, since he was walking there, since on his way he started first going towards there, he was which kind of very chiddush. Okay, it's Arukh HaShulchan says the first guy to start walking towards the Amos, he first guy to walk into the forum. Well, so my come Shabbat Mitzia Toch Arba Moso Mitzia Kad Moso. Even though a person stood there, but he started walking there, presumably he entered the foramus before the other person stood there. And while he was walking, he got there walking first, even the other guy stood first. Okay? And back it says, Rai Milom Mashani Ken Ardere Shlokish Bamitzia Yud. Okay? You have to learn Sugi there. Hey, Chatzer Shalom Kain Lo Shlomi Daito. The Chatzer of a person acquires something without his intent. I feel any be a cloud, even if it's not in the city at all. In Nafla Bamitzia, if a lost item fell into his chutzah, Harei Shva chutzah belongs to the owner of the chutzah. But I'm going more where's the shuba chutzah mishtaras if it's a chutzah which is safeguarded. Ava beside the beginning of it's a field or a yard, a garden, etc. Imaya ome b'tzat sadeu. Well, he's making a distinction. Chutzah, which is mishtamer. Yard is considered usually to be mishtamer, whereas a sad or gina is not. The field or a garden is not. Only then, only if you're standing next to the field or the garden. It says Zasli Sadi, then you say my field requires me, Zacha Bahem, then your field work requires you. I'm not saying that you're standing there, Zasli Sadi, and he doesn't say that my field requires my behalf. Anybody comes first can get the lost object. That's the Rambam Perkuzayim Avedam. That's the Rambam. I forgot to hear this Arba Amos Einsuchamar Klum. Even though by acquisition for Amos you don't have to stake your claim. The claim of Furish Vashas, that's expressed in Shas, they should Takonas Chachamim. That's because that's a Takonas Chachamim. They show you Rivu Zaim Zeh. In order that people shouldn't fight with each other, that's a special concept for Amos. Lo chilku ben amar lo amar. Therefore, they didn't distinguish whether you said or didn't say. Avachas shemish tametz the yard which is not safeguarded. You don't acquire without a statement. The time is by Musamach, and the reason is going to be clarified presently. Back it says, Rav Magi goes up. She says, "Yushami." He says, Magi Mishnah says, "Yushami." To me, I'm astonished. The Shamu Dal Ramos. Kahavamina the Shasti law. And I am showing that it's only going Dal Ramos, like the Havamina and the Babli. It's not going on Chatzar. Vav. Some say that some say it's enough to stand next to your field. For low, but you don't need a statement at all. That's Taisus. And the Rush and the Rashba. Some say that some say that if the lost object is an animal, such as a crippled deer, or chicks that can't fly. If you pursue them, you can catch up to them. They can't acquire without Amira. Because when you say that you were going to acquire them, that is the arousal to interesting word to acquire them. Therefore, you are now you become aware and aroused, and you're going to be able to safeguard them. But if you didn't say so, then it's not safeguard for you. That's only because they're mobile, albeit slowly mobile. But any other lost object does not require Amir, the surrounding Mukhiyesef. Time of Rambam nearly. So, what's the logic of the Rambam who says that you always need Amira? It says the Nei Besimikupet test needs bar. So we can clarify the Koki and Kabanali Knos. Any Kenyan requires an intent to acquire. Yesh Lish Obim Tzios, therefore you can answer how can Chatzer acquire without your intent? Hello, Edom Mechamin Liknos. You don't have in mind to acquire. Well, you have to say the obvious answer. The Chatzer having a shlucho. The Chatzer is like your agent. Just like your agent can acquire something for you without your intent, as long as the shliach intends it, the shlucho kamaisa, because the shliach is like you. Also, even the Chatzer of a woman, which has been derived from her hand. It's Joshua. If you put a get in a woman's Chatzer, she's miskareshes. It's Simon Reish Mem Gimel. Nevertheless, it's no worse than agency. Just like you can bestow ownership on a person, even if he's not present, because you can be the person acquiring his behalf becomes his agent. Your chotzer also comes to shliach. That's only by chotzer, which is safeguarded. That chotzer about a corner where the chotzer in and of itself can make an acquisition. But if it's not safeguarded, where you have to stand next to your field or your garden in order to make an acquisition. You also need this kavanah to acquire. If he doesn't have an intent, there's no key in that kavanah. And this is an interesting point he makes, since he knows about this, because he's standing there next to it. The chutzah doesn't work on its own. So there's an interesting distinction. The chutzah mishtameres is an automatic shliach. Chutzah mishtameres is not automatic shliach. You need to, so to speak, designate it as your shliach. Let's go back a couple lines there. It's not mishtameres. We have to stand next to it. We made it to come else. You also need your kavanah to acquire it. If you don't have mind, there's no key without kavanah. Since you know about this, they show me because you're next to it. It's not completed by the chutz itself. The Rambam Matana. The Rambam also has this way by gift. There's a parak tab and schiyam. These barsham simon reshim and gimel. It's not that the statement is an impediment in and of itself. Rather, it's a testimony that he actually had intent. The locative, if not, me made, how would who testify that he had in mind, in fact, to acquire it? Maybe he didn't. For anybody who comes first come, first serve. Rambam there, the is not found. The Rambam, Nation Mechira, and the Sinas and most made a kavanah. Interesting, because you don't need it. That there's any verbalization, because and seeing that the transfer of the money indicates the kavanah. But that's not true by a lost object or a matar. The rabbis argue, we assume a person wants to acquire. The ain't so you don't need testimony for this. The also that your chutz is a shliach, even if it's any mishtameres, even without saying anything. Zayin. Yesh migdolei achronim. There's some great achronim of the shirotz. I might say they came to chatzir shalom kodesh shlo midaito. If a person's chutz acquires without his intent, it's chutz mishtameres. Koshkein the other kodesh shlo midaito. Certainly your hand acquires without your intent. Learning it's not clear. The head your kodesh was saying about Yitesis, the place is right explicitly above Bas or Dafn down. The other shalom ain't a kodesh shlo midaito. That person is not acquired without his intent. It's not your chutz. The chutz are low. Any of them is a chutz, you don't know about it. But if you knew, you would want it. That's the chutz. Your chutz becomes like your agent. But if you talk and know and don't have intent to be going, you're not going to. That is the Mishnah Melech. It says back it's here. Mishnah Melech Sham Mashkas the taste of Gittin. Diram Madav Samachal. Diram Master Lichnu Kavas and Sakadag Lamar. Kain Kamash on the low. The Mishnah says Cheshan lower Diram Mishnah Melech. The right Mashkas Vav. Okay, this it says proof to what he wrote previously about the idea of the correlation of intent and agency. Ches Kasar Ben Mother Rama writes Ein Chatzero Konet Lo Ela Biyodeh BeMetzia Odaske Dati. The Chatzero only works if you know about the Metzia or you thought that it could occur. But something which is not usually going to happen, it's not going to come. So Chatzah is not acquired for you. Api Shabbat Metzia L'Sham, either though Metzia comes there, Acher and not L'Sham, somebody else comes acquires it. Zachar, the person who gets it, who came into your field and took it, acquires it. Hope Lo Yod about Chatzah Metzia Shasham comes to the since the owner of the Chatzah did not know about the Metzia was there before the same guy acquired it, kind of showed him. End quote from the Ramah. Be advar. But he say something where it was done. It's not accustomed to. It doesn't normally come to a chutzah, and it could be you'll never find out about it. Well, matzah the gal of case Yoshi bar sim rain samasi base like the case we find something in under an avalanche or an old wall. Hey, Chatzir Kono, your Chatzir is not acquired for you. That's in the Sivas. V'sham B'yadu, they will explain at time the reason Ayin Sham. Avodah She'en Rogil Avot Tzvay, which is not normally going to get there. But you would necessarily find out about it. Even though say that also in this case, this Chatzir is not acquired for him. Most poskim will argue. Like we said there. You call it Davar Cheskas Bedil Macharo, famous case. If you bought something assuming that it was tin and then you sold it, and then you found that it was silver inside. So I assume Reish base. So I assume Reish base that it's too bad because you never acquired the silver since you thought it was tin. That's a very famous Hagos Hashri case, but not for now. Test. The chutzner is not koina unless the mitzvah fell into the chutzner after the original owner gave a pope. If fell into the chutzner before the original owner gave a pope, below koina the chutzner is not acquired. Does not acquire. If the use occurs after falls into the chutzner, of course, the classic case of Yush Lomidas. But Lord, if the mitzvah in your yard is no better than your mitzvah you find your own. Location was that now some argues the holds of chutzner shach lamar b'sor. That's the other interesting idea. They say that my chutzner is not shach so us the other is no chutzner can't do an isser. So therefore it could even work if it got into the yard before Yerush takes place. Okay. You saw other people pursuing the mitzvah. It's an animal over in chatzero, which is passing through your yard, your field. And they can't be safeguarded by a field. They're fleeing from your jurisdiction and going beyond it. But you were standing next to your chutzner, or next to your soda. The if there's other type of movable object, you would acquire b'chai the animals running the normal way. Like a deer running the normal way, it goes also and birds are flying. There's no way to impede them. They shouldn't leave the field. The yard, I feel Omar Zachsi study. Even you said my field or my yard should acquire me. It's meaningless. They can't safeguard them at all. But if it's a crippled a deer, or a chicks which have not flown, if you stand next to the field, and if you were to pursue them, again you would be able to catch up with them. And you said that my yard or my field acquired me, kind of requires even didn't run after them. It's called a safeguard field in this respect. If you can't reach them, then your statement is meaningless. By himself, and anybody acquires them first come, first serve. Well, this is accordingly, if it's an animal, which a domesticated animal, which doesn't move so quickly, in such a manner, you would be quiet. Because you assume you can pursue it and attain and catch up to it. But a bird, of course, we assume that you can't run up to it and catch it. Yeah, but still, Rakim see this only by a lost object. But a gift, they gave you a broken, a crippled deer, because the shloparchu and birds that can't fly. Basically, also since there's another intent involved in the kinyan. His kinyan is stronger. The kind of requires him even if he runs after them, can't reach them. Since they are rolling around through his field, through his yard, for his field, the person giving the gift said, may your jurisdiction acquire for you or raise the kind of works. But if it's a normal deer running normally, because the freaking and flying birds, and you're not staying close to enough to them, so you can see, grab them, look at even a gift, the field is ineffective. The reason is came into Rutz Kedako have a kilo sorry. Since it's running the normal way, it's as if it's not going to stop there. And therefore it's not. There's no affinity between your field and this object. If it's crippled, where the birds can't fly, Havakim is galgal, then it's like it's rolling to Kamunach Dami, which is if it's stationary. Matana terms of a gift. So Simon Reshman Gimel. And it says that's from the Rif. Yesh Chokim said those are argued. They came Lobi and Ratzachem Magion. since you don't have to actually be able to catch them. In that case, even the deer is running the normal way, and the birds are flying. The karma that does work by matana. That's the gra. So it's like going through. If Kirdav Zorko to Chatzei Chatz Chaber doing matana. Okay, but it's not getting to determine that one. It goes on to the next thing. From the smart, if somebody was mafkir or something and tossed into his friend's chatzer, then it's status like a matana. You'd base Amos, a katana, a minor girl, has a chatzer has for Amos, presumably because we derive from get. Because ain't no chatzer of the Amos, presumably again because he has no source in the Gittin. Time should never come his bar sham sif chabibes ayin sham, and that is explained there. The Arukh HaShulchan is not explained yet here, and here is where we will stop.